What a series, man. That game was amazing, although it had a really weird ending to it. But the Dallas Mavericks going to the Western Conference Finals, awaiting the winner of Nuggets Timberwolves tomorrow. Let's talk about the winners of this game, the Dallas Mavericks. They will be going to the Western Conference Finals for the second time in the Luka Doncic era. Really just an incredible retool of the roster over the last year and a half, trading for Kyrie Irving, and then the trades mid-season this year, or at the trade deadline, with PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. You signed Derrick Jones Jr. for the minimum. You whiffed on the Grant Williams signing, but you were able to flip it into something better because PJ Washington was absolutely incredible in the series. Didn't have a good game tonight and got in a lot of foul trouble, but in the fourth quarter, when the Mavericks needed him, he made key three after key three, hit a three in the left corner to tie it, and then hit a three on the right wing to put the Mavericks up 3. So that was just a home run, and it's just been home run after home run by Nico Harrison in the front office. So I just wanted to give some credit there, and just the moves they made after retooling, losing Jalen Brunson, and, getting Dereck Lively, who was big tonight. You can't forget this game without mentioning Lively. Big offensive rebounds. I thought, earlier in the game, especially in that third quarter, there was like 2 possessions. One where Luka tried to force, an interior pass to Lively, and Jalen Williams, picked that off. Kyrie Irving did the same thing, and they were kind of just forcing it to Lively and kind of leaving him out to dry, but they kept trusting him and rewarding him in that fourth quarter, making big defensive rotations, grabbing big offensive rebounds, big and ones. And that's the other story from this series. Speaking of the offensive rebounding, the Thunder in this series, I think they're just going to look back and just see that there were just a few too many times in this series where there were just stretches of the Mavericks just pounding the Thunder on the offensive glass. And tonight they had 14 offensive rebounds. Dereck Lively had 4 of them and just had big ones in the fourth quarter. Daniel Gafford, of course, kept, attacking the offensive glass in his minutes, but Jason Kidd went with Lively once it became apparent that Lively was tangibly impacting the game. Made some decisions in the short roll, too. One of the big offensive rebounds he had, he kicked it out to PJ Washington at the top of the three-point line, and then he swung it to Kyrie Irving for a big 3 to pull the Mavericks within 2. And Lively just made key plays like that. That was kind of the story for Oklahoma City and the big worry in these playoffs. Now, I don't think the offensive rebounding was the sole reason the Thunder lost this series, but there were just too many key possessions in too many games in this series where, if you just finished the defensive possession with a defensive board, you might have given yourself a little bit more of a chance if you're not just giving up extra possessions. And the Mavericks feasted on that, especially in the second half during their comeback. Luka Doncic in the first half, I thought he had I didn't know how to feel about the first half he had. On one hand, he was on fire scoring the ball, but on the other hand, he was turning the ball over. He got a tech in the first half, and then he kept looking at the refs and talking to the refs every time, and I was scared that Luka was going to get one of those egregious Tony Brothers type of techs where Tony Brothers just short fuse, gives Doncic a tech that he probably didn't deserve and then get tossed. That's where I thought it was headed. But Luka Doncic was able to play better in the second half, made key plays in the fourth quarter, hitting tough contested 2s over, I believe it was Lou Dort when Doncic took that contested mid-ranger to take the lead. And Kyrie Irving woke up in the second half too after playing kind of passive, and Richard Jefferson hinted at it a little bit. I think a former teammate of Kyrie's would know a thing or two about playing with Kyrie, and there was something to the, he was just feeling out the game and seeing what he needs to do, and then in the second half he turns up. Even guys like Jaden Hardy, even though he only played like 10 minutes, that 1-3 he hit in the corner to make sure the Mavericks stayed attached within single digits, stuff like that adds up. And PJ Washington was in foul trouble, so they had to readjust off that. Derrick Jones Jr. once again was just on fire, and I thought he defended Shai Gilgeous-Alexander well in this series. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just that good. And we should get to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because I was just so impressed by how he performed in this game. He wasn't getting to the free throw line a lot. He was 4 of 7. You know, heading into these playoffs, I just had a feeling there was just this brewing, and it's always going to happen with stars, there was just going to be this brewing backlash to Shai after all the praise he got these last few seasons, because people were just going to do the free throw merchant stuff, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. And all he did all playoffs was be the same Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that we saw in the regular season, and that dude is a flat-out superstar. He carried this Thunder team. Jalen Williams did have a better game, and so did Chet Holmgren, but I really thought, especially in that fourth quarter when the Mavericks were making their comeback and they were taking the lead and at one point extended the lead to 5, SGA, I thought, did a good job of attacking what was in front of them, step back threes, you know, his usual mid-range, just an array of moves, and he was even making the right decision, passing the ball, you know, throwing it cross court a few times in that fourth quarter, even though at times I thought he should have even been more selfish. But he was just spectacular in this game. Jalen Williams, struggling all series, 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists, and hit some big threes in that fourth quarter too, especially one to put the Thunder back up 1 after the Mavericks took the lead. And there were times where I thought the Thunder were showing their youth a little bit, like one turnover where Chet Holmgren tried to hit Cason Wallace on a backdoor cut and he put a little too much mustard on it out of bounds, and this was in the midst of the Mavericks making their comeback. There were times where the Thunder, I thought, rushed things a little bit offensively and turned the ball over at inopportune times. There was even one transition play where Cason Wallace, he had a wide open 3. Sometimes it's a coin flip on those, whether it's a good time or not to take that shot, but he was open and he took it and he missed it. And that could have put the Thunder up 7 while they still had like a 4-point lead and they were on life support. But that's the break sometimes. But I thought the Thunder were just really good in this game. And unfortunately, sometimes you lose coin flip games like that. I don't know how to feel about that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander foul, because he did get the ball first, but it was still in PJ Washington's hands. And, you know, Shai hit him across the arm. But in any case, the Thunder could have, you know, not turned the ball over. They could have taken some better shots. I thought they might have stuck with the Jalen Williams, big Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren double big lineup a little bit too long. But to me, this wasn't a young team losing because of inexperience. They just lost to a really good team in a coin flip type of game. Cason Wallace even made like a crazy reverse layup over Dereck Lively after Lively just caught the heater of his life in the fourth quarter, and Cason Wallace put the Thunder up 2. Like, everybody on the Thunder made some big plays. Even Kenrich Williams, he got an offensive rebound in the first half and got a putback, and even though that was only 3 minutes of game time for him, you know, he barely played in this series but still contributed. I thought the Thunder acquitted themselves well in this playoff run, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was just special in this run. 36 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 or 5 from 3, and he had to take a lot of shots from over the top because the Thunder were just missing open threes, and the Mavericks were willing to just load up on Shai, while Chet Holmgren, and even though Lou Dort started out nice from 3, he ended the game 2 of 7. Chet Holmgren, 1 of 7 from 3. Isaiah Joe played better in this game, did not get in foul trouble. Actually, he didn't commit a foul at all, and played solid defense. So it wasn't like I thought the Mark Daigneault decision to make the lineup change last game. It's not like I was against that. I thought that was the move. I suggested maybe Cason Wallace in there instead of Isaiah Joe, but Isaiah Joe, 3 of 4 from 3. The Thunder made 15 threes, but still, they were just willing to live with Lou Dort, Chet shooting, and some of the threes the Thunder hit were tough, and the Mavericks were just selling out to stop Shai. Shai even got the trap at half court, and Jalen Williams hit a wide open 3 out of the timeout in that fourth quarter. That fourth quarter was just really entertaining. That was an entertaining game of basketball. This series has just been really good, and I'm kind of sad it's over. I was hoping for a Game 7. But Luka and Kyrie took care of business. They got contributions from Dereck Lively, who I can't believe is this good already as a rookie. And just a masterful job by the Mavericks on their team building, like I mentioned earlier. The Thunder, they're going to be good for a long time. With the flexibility they have, Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as your 1-2 punch for the future, along with Chet Holmgren. I do think the Thunder need to address some interior issues, but with the picks they have, with how many picks they have, with this new CBA, I just feel like the Thunder are going to be sustainable for a long time because they're going to pay their top-end talent. The guys they end up drafting, they're going to have to trade some guys, recoup some talent. They just found a well of draft picks, and they're going to be able to sustain themselves for a long time. And at the top of it is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But nothing should be taken for granted in the West. Memphis is going to come back healthy. Sacramento presumes to be better. You got Minnesota. You got Denver. The West is not going to be a cakewalk for a very long time. So even though the Thunder are set up well for the future, they actually are going to have to put it into practice and be at the top. Because the West is going to be bonkers next year. And it's not a given. I do this too, where you just assume that a young team is going to be this good for a long time because they're just so young. And we thought that with the previous iteration of this Thunder team, but nothing is taken for granted, especially in this Western Conference. And even look at the Mavericks. Made it to the Western Conference Finals, missed the playoffs last year, but now here they are again. I think either matchup between the Timberwolves or the Nuggets would be really fun. But one thing's for certain, with the way the Mavericks have played defense in these playoffs and with the two killers they have, they're just going to give whoever comes out of that series absolute hell.